Hello everybody and welcome to Gene's Reviews from a regular dude, where I do trailer reactions, I react to YouTube videos, I review YouTube channels, occasionally I'll review a movie, but really, I just do whatever the hell I want. Hello everybody and welcome to Gene's Reviews from a regular dude. Today we're doing one from Americano. This is 15 foods you are not allowed to eat in the U.S.A. I'll be interested to see what foods these are, because some of them I might have already tried.
The United States of America, land of the free, home of the brave. But maybe not so brave when it comes to food, because there are a ton of foods that people are enjoying every day all around the world, which are outright banned in the US. Why? Well, a whole bunch of reasons, which we're going to look at in the video. But if you're American, the moral of the story is to make sure you stick to healthy, legal foods like Burger King, or snack cakes and Velveeta. Pop-Tart, anyone? From one of the most expensive and endangered foods in the world to a meat that people love to eat in France, and a whole bunch of other places, here's 15 foods you are not allowed to eat in the USA. Number 15. Beluga caviar. Back in 2005, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service hit beluga caviar with a ban. In fact, it applies to all beluga products. But the caviar...
I haven't had beluga caviar, but I have tried caviar. And I didn't really care for it, to be honest with you. Really salty. It was at I was in a play, and the people that were directing and producing the play had a wrap party after it was all over and everything, and they had caviar and like boiled potatoes and stuff like that, and you spread it on and eat it. I didn't really care for it. I tried one. That was
famous due to its weighty $200 an ounce price tag. This caviar comes from the beluga sturgeon, which in recent times has become endangered as everyone wants to be a caviar shoveling playboy or girl nowadays, so the poor fish has been working a little too hard trying to feed all the hungry millionaires. The U.S. demanded that the nations which border the Caspian Sea, where the sturgeon live, produce documentation to prove the extent of their conservation efforts matched U.S. expectations. And they did not produce any evidence of those efforts. Those nations, Iran, Russia, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and Turkmenistan, took a major economic hit after the ban. Just kinda turns out that this group are not the U.S.'s best political buddies. There is hope for the sturgeon, though, since demand for caviar produced by Massage.
Massage? I wonder what that means.
Is increasing, and this method removes the eggs without killing the fish. The rarest kind of beluga sturgeon caviar is produced in Iran and is known as almas, and it comes from albino sturgeon, which are aged between 60 and 80 years old. It can go for $800 an ounce, although good luck finding any at your local Trader Joe's.
Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now, or this centipede will crawl on your face when you're sleeping.
Number 14. Horse meat. So it's not illegal to eat horse meat in the US, but it is illegal to slaughter horses, which makes it pretty much illegal to eat horse meat unless you want to take your chances with trying to eat a live one. Yeah, here's a tip. Most horses don't like being eaten alive, so you can expect a struggle. The ban on slaughtering horses for meat was extended by President Trump in 2018.
That's just wrong. They're not meant to
And
eat.
this has long been a cultural taboo, likely inherited from the US's British roots. The English consider horses to be a near sacred animal, and
Yeah.
apart from during the rationing era of the Second World War, eating horses in Britain has pretty much been taboo for centuries. On the other hand, horse meat is commonly eaten in France, Belgium, Italy, Switzerland, and Germany, and in fact, horse meat is considered to be one of the healthiest red meats for human consumption. But it's Seabiscuit and Mr. Ed. The only problem with the US ban on horse meat is that eating horses is also quite common in Mexico, so people just take the horses across the border, slaughter them there, and then bring the meat back across
That's
to the
so
US. This has even led to some high-profile
I just
cases
can't
of
see
horse
doing that. I
rustling
can't.
and smuggling, where thoroughbred racehorses have found themselves being served up on the dinner table. Number 13. Haggis.
When I was like
Haggis
in
is Scotland.
8th and 9th grade, we had horses, so no, I couldn't eat horse meat.
Across the border, slaughter them there, and then bring the meat back across to the US. This has even led to some high-profile cases of horse rustling and smuggling, where thoroughbred racehorses have found themselves being served up on the dinner table. Number 13. Haggis. Haggis is Scotland's national dish, and unfortunately for many Americans who are proud of their Scottish ancestry, the right to enjoy this tasty dish has been taken away. Now, there's no doubt that haggis sounds a lot less appealing than it is to actually eat. It is a kind of savory pudding, the ingredients of which are sheep heart, lung, and liver mixed with oats, stock, onion, and suet, all served in the stomach of a sheep.
They need to be heated up again after they're in the bag.
Okay, it sounds horrifying, but it goes great with Scotland's other ancient national delicacy, the deep-fried Mars bar. The Scots are known for their bravery, however, so if you want to show off your ancestry from one of the old clans, you better toughen up when Burns Night comes around,
No, I
which is
wouldn't eat
Scotland's
that.
celebration of their
Would you eat
most
that?
famous
I wouldn't
poet,
eat that.
Robert Burns. And the only way to do it is to eat a big plate full of haggis. Why can't you celebrate Burns Night in
It's
the
funny,
US? Well, it
I'm
goes
expecting when he sticks that knife in there for it to just pop.
back to an import ban on sheep lungs from half a century ago, after a panic over the possible spread of the degenerative disease known as scrapie among sheep. Since then, all animal lungs have been banned for human consumption in the US due to fears over microbes, but it doesn't seem to have done the Scots too much harm.
That
Number
does not
12.
look appetizing.
Sassafras oil. It's been popular for some time, especially in California, to reject modern food and head back to the kind of diet our ancestors might have eaten, in the hopes that some of their desperate survival meals might give us the health and energy to get us through our long days browsing social media. This is the paleo diet, but if you don't want to go back quite as far as that, then Americans might look among their own people for some traditional foods, such as those used by Native Americans. The Native Americans were masters of this huge and diverse terrain long before anyone else showed up, and an extensive knowledge of the plant life was an important part of life. But they didn't get everything 100% right, as it turns out that one popular oil, known as sassafras oil, has carcinogenic properties due to a compound known as safrole, which is found in the oil. This led to an outright
So it can give you
ban on
cancer.
the production of the oil. It should be said that the Native Americans used the root bark as a treatment for rheumatism and fever, and it is the oil which was produced later for use in toiletries and soaps, which is carcinogenic. It was even included in a famous liquor known as Godfrey's, which also contained opium. Sounds like it might have given a serious hangover anyway. Number 11. CASU MARZU. When you think back to the first person who ever ate cheese, you have to wonder what they were thinking or how close to starvation they were. Coming across solidified, mold-covered cow milk might have been a risky decision. Starvation or whatever terrible things this weird food might do. But apparently they not only survived, but realized that cheese is awesome, and soon everyone was eating rotten milk. But in Sardinia, moldy cheese was not enough. They had to go and add some fly larvae to it to add a little extra flavor. That's maggots to you and I, and the creamy cheese these maggots help produce is called CASU MARZU.
Why? Why would they do that? I don't understand. Just stick with Swiss or cheddar or Monterey Jack or something, you know, the normal cheese, the good stuff. I don't want fly larvae in my cheese. I just don't. I was at another one I played an extra in a movie, and they had a party afterwards, and I went to it. And they had all this cheese set out and everything on the table. And I got some on a cracker. I didn't know what it was or anything, and I put it in my mouth. I had to run out the door and actually threw up in the parking lot. That was the grossest crap I've ever eaten in my life. I don't know what it was. I'm trying to think of the name of that really bad cheese, and it slipped my tongue right now, but it was awful. Awful.
And it is, in fact, a sheep cheese, which is left to rot among the maggots. The problem with eating live maggots is that they can live on in the intestinal system and cause conditions such as pseudomyiasis in humans. So not only is this cheese banned in the land of the Kraft cheese slice, but in the whole of the European Union. What does CASU MARZU mean in the Sardinian dialect, you ask? Well, it just means rotten cheese, so at least they're honest about what they're making. Number 10. Shark fins. Shark finning is the practice of fishing sharks from the water, cutting off the fins and then throwing the shark back in, where it obviously dies. This practice is most common in China, where shark fin soup is considered a delicacy, thanks to the 10th century Emperor Taizu, who enjoyed a bowl of shark fin soup after a hard day emperoring. Needless to say, this practice is outlawed in a whole lot of countries, since not only is it extremely brutal, the increasing popularity of shark fin soup in both China and in countries with significant Chinese populations has led to a near decimation of the shark population in some areas. What is unusual about the U.S. is that shark fins are only banned in 12 states. Shark finning itself has been banned in the U.S. waters since 2000, but you can still legally buy the ingredients for shark fin soup legally in 38 states, and in 10 of those, 12 states restaurants do serve the dish. Unsurprisingly, a lot of animal rights activists in the US are pretty unhappy about this situation, with many other countries having an outright ban and some countries banning shark fishing altogether. Number 9.
We don't have to worry about
foie
me.
gras.
I have no interest in
Foie gras is one of France's most famous dishes, and coming from a country with such an incredible culinary tradition, that is quite an honor. It is
They eat snails in France, so I don't know about this.
a butter-smooth kind of pâté, which is made from the livers of geese or ducks. And it sells for as much as $75 a pound. However, it is the way that foie gras is produced that has put Americans in a flap, and now led to a ban in the state of California. The geese that produce foie gras need to have a very fatty liver, and in fact, foie gras translates to fat liver. This means that the geese need to be force-fed, which is not considered to be ethical by the authorities in the US. New York has now followed, and more states seem to set bans on the product. And although there is no doubt that these methods are cruel to the geese, a quick glance at the average battery hen or pig factory does raise the question of a slight double standard. I don't know if every cow that goes into a Big Mac patty is living a fulfilling life free of cruelty. But hey, the fact is that this expensive French delicacy is off the menu for a lot of Americans, and it looks as though that's the way it's gonna stay. Number 8. Japanese pufferfish. The pufferfish has a kind of amusing appearance.
I've heard of these. I've heard that they're very, very poisonous, and if they're prepared wrong, they can actually kill you.
With its bloated face and spiny body, but looks can be deceiving, as this is one fish that packs a hidden punch. It is extremely venomous, and one of its organs contain a poisonous neurotoxin that can lead to paralysis and death. and in spite of this, the Japanese love to eat it. It takes an extremely skilled chef to remove the toxic organs safely and separate off the non-toxic meat. Yet mistakes have happened, and dozens of Japanese people used to die every year from what is known as fugu, until restrictions were tightened in Japan. However, in the USA, the consumption of fugu is banned pretty much entirely due to its extremely toxic contents. There are a few licensed practitioners who are allowed to prepare and serve fugu in the US, but obtaining a license is not easy. One other problem in the US is that this fish also lives in the waters around Florida, but unlike its Japanese cousin, the Florida version is almost entirely toxic, with no safe parts to eat, so the possibility of fatalities from accidental or even non-accidental consumption of this Florida fish is high. Number 7.
Something else I don't need to try.
Kinder Surprise. The small chocolate eggs known as Kinder Surprise are familiar to kids all across Europe and have been for decades, particularly in Italy where they were created back in 1974. There is a long tradition in countries like Italy and France of baking coins or small toys into desserts, with the luckiest child getting a slice which contains the prize. This also extends to chocolate eggs with a toy inside, and that's the deal with the Kinder Egg. Even though the chocolate egg is wrapped around a sealed and large plastic egg, which contains the toy, the US banned Kinder Eggs due to the potential choking hazard. It would be a pretty impressive feat to manage to choke on one of these, but the US is not taking any chances with selling edible and non-edible ingredients in the same packaging. There are in fact 10 documented cases of children choking to death from the toys in the Kinder Eggs, although it should probably be put in the context of the more than 30 billion Kinder Eggs that have been sold and consumed safely. They are popular in Mexico too, but if you're thinking of smuggling some in, then be aware the fine is $2,500 per egg if you get caught. Number 6. Absinthe.
Can't believe some of the toys and stuff that they can't have nowadays that they used to have, like when I was a kid and stuff. Remember those clackers? Did anyone ever have clackers? The 2 balls on a string, like you had a string this way and a string that way and ball on the end. You sit there and move it up and down and they clack. I hit my wrists and arms and everything so many times using those things. I think they got rid of them. Oh, I'm sure they did.
The rage for absinthe swept through parts of Europe in the 19th century, and by the early 20th century, the Green Fairy has become the drink of choice for all of Paris's army of famous poets, artists, and musicians. The drink is actually of Swiss origin and is one of many famous drinks from Europe, which are made from macerated herbs and plants. It is one of the plants known as wormwood, which causes the problem. This plant is heavily hallucinogenic, and is even named after the comet from the Book of Revelation, which was fabled to come to Earth on Judgment Day to poison all the waters. Around the outbreak of World War I, many countries in Europe, along with the US, took a sharp change of policy on drugs. Heroin went from being available in pharmacies to everyone being strictly outlawed, and the popular drink absinthe was also outright banned in many countries including France and the US. It was never banned in the UK, although it never became popular in British culture. The many makers of absinthe stashed all their supplies of the drink in a warehouse in the Netherlands, and then went out to fight in World War I, hoping the law would be repealed. The warehouse was still full of absinthe at the end of World War II, and it was destroyed by a German bomb in the very final days of the war, more than 30 years after it was put there. Number 5. ACKEE.
So it makes you hallucinate, basically.
Days of the war, more than 30 years after it was put there. Number 5. ACKEE fruit. The ACKEE fruit is the national fruit of Jamaica, but the Jamaicans know that there's a good time to eat ACKEE, and there's a bad time to eat it. In short, you do not want to eat this fruit when it is unripe, as it contains high levels of the toxin hypoglycin A, which has the unpleasant effect of inhibiting the body's ability to release blood sugar, and this can lead to hypoglycemia, which is where blood sugar levels are too low, causing vomiting, dehydration, and in some cases death. So back in 1973, the importation of raw ACKEE was banned by the FDA, although it is still possible to buy frozen or canned ACKEE, although these imports have to meet extremely strict standards.
No desire. I'll just
When the
stick to
fruit is
oranges,
ripe
apples,
and safe to
bananas,
eat, it is
pineapple.
bright red with 3 or 4 sections of flesh which have glossy black seeds. Even though it is very popular to Jamaica, it is still actually native to West Africa, and the fruit was brought to the Caribbean by Captain William Bligh, who transported a sample from the Royal Kew Gardens in London to Jamaica in 1793. Number 4. Queen Conch. The Alligergigas, or queen conch as it is commonly known, is a kinda great sea snail, which is native to the Caribbean and tropical northwest Atlantic Ocean. This conch is one of the largest mollusks in the region, and can measure as much as 14 inches. They have been prized by humans since prehistory, and Native Americans used the queen conch for decorative purposes. However, modern trends for queen conch shell collecting have led to widespread devastation of the species in its natural habitat, and so regulations have been imposed by the U.S. in the attempt to halt the extreme overfishing of this species, which shows up in the waters around Florida. The meat of queen conches has long been an important part of West Indian cuisine, as well as on many of the islands off southern Florida. There are lots of ways to prepare queen conch meat, including raw or made into chowder, fritters, stews, soups, salads, and pâtés. Also, tribes such as the Arawak made knives and weapons from the shells, while the Aztecs believed the sound from blowing a conch shell was a divine trumpet call, and so would blow them at religious ceremonies. Number 3.
I guess it's not that unusual. I mean, people eat clams, and they're pretty disgusting looking too. Unpasteurized milk.
Pasteurized milk. Raw milk, or as we call it, unpasteurized milk, is not prohibited at a federal level in the U.S., but many states have outlawed its sale, including California and New York. Even though it forms an important part of the diet in many cultures, especially in Europe, Californians and New Yorkers, it seems, cannot be trusted with a pint of raw milk. Raw milk is in fact perfectly safe as long as standard regulations are followed, and it is less likely to cause sickness in people than mass-produced pasteurized milk is, which is the kind that is produced and promoted in California and New York. Back in the 19th century, milk was in demand in growing cities, where people had recently arrived, leaving their rural life behind. But they still wanted the cow's milk they had grown up on, so it was imported to cities in unsafe ways, with little
I remember this little town that we lived in when I was a junior in high school, and it was really small. Like 240 students in the whole school, 7th through 12th grade. But I remember we used to go to this farm and get raw milk there, and it has a cream right on the top of the jar. So they got the milk underneath and a bunch of cream right on the top. My mom and dad used to buy it from them.
Regulation, and so milk's bad reputation for causing sickness was established. Many people now believe that the mass-produced industrial milk is in fact less healthy in the long run due to the pasteurization or heating process that occurs with it. Is there a way around the law? Yes, you can buy your own cow and drink it direct. There's nothing prohibiting that, although trying to fit one in your LA or New York City apartment could be another challenge altogether. Number 2. Redfish. Back in the 1980s, The New Orleans celebrity chef, Paul Prudhomme, became famous for creating fantastic Cajun and Creole dishes, which people throughout the states wanted to try. His specialty was blackened red fish, and a craze developed for eating this fish, which has long been an important element of the cuisine of states such as Louisiana and Mississippi. But the craze caused a near-total depletion of the redfish population in U.S. waters, and so in 1986, the Commerce Department stepped in and forced redfish fisheries to close their doors so the fish population could recover. The amount of redfish taken from the water had increased from 2.7 million pounds in 1980 to 8.9 million pounds by 1986. The only exemption was for the state of Mississippi, and since 1986, all commercial fishing of redfish has been banned. However, it is still possible to get hold of farmed redfish, so all is not lost if you want to make one of those fantastic New Orleans-style fish dishes. Number 1. Ortolan. The serving of ortolan is one of the most unusual traditions in all of France, and nowadays the dish has been banned not only in the US, but in France and the rest of Europe too. Ortolan are small migratory birds, and traditionally nets would be set up to trap a few of these birds as they made their way to Africa for winter. The birds are then kept in the dark, which seems to cause them to eat more than usual, causing them to almost double in weight. Then the birds are put into a container of Armagnac, which kills them, and they are then marinated in the alcohol. After this, the ortolan is roasted for 8 minutes and then is plucked, after which the bird is eaten whole, including the head, with the larger bones being spat out. All of this takes place with a white napkin placed over its head, which serves 2 purposes. One is to help preserve the amazing aromas of this special dish, and the other is for the once very pious and Catholic French people to shield themselves from God, as they did not want him to see them enjoying something that tastes so extra specially good. Sadly, it seems God finally figured out what was going on and used his magical powers to make the bureaucratic institutions of France and the US ban this decadent treat. Which of these 15 foods do you most wish was available in?
I've tried raw milk. I've tried the caviar. I think that's about it. I don't think there's anything else on there that I want. Let me know if you've tried any of those. That fish or that cheese, I wish I could think of what it was called. But it was so bad. Oh, it's right there. Oh, it was terrible. Oh. Okay. Here's one that has to do with food. Becoming a vegetarian is a big mistake.
Thank you, everybody. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hashtag Mean Gene, all that fun stuff. And if you like this video, tell all your friends, leave a comment down below. And if you didn't like it, then just shut up. And I will see you next time.